Logic 0, example 10.3, three-variable truth table. So in this demonstration, I want to show how we do the truth table setup for three variables, how we fill it out, and using this somewhat complicated statement with lots of component parts. I'll walk through it step by step and just give you a good demonstration of how we evaluate something that has this kind of embedded parentheses and all that. Okay, so we have three variables. So we're going to list those, and then we're going to take our proposition and put it out there and put our dividers in here. And now the setup here, once we get to three variables, becomes a little more complicated. And I want to show you how to get that set up so that it looks like this. And one key factor here is this formula. So we have this formula that tells us that the number of rows is equal to 2 to the power of n, where n is the number of variables. And in Google Docs here, we have an equation editor. So this is what the formula looks like. So we have r equals 2 to the power of n. Okay. Now, in this example here, there are three variables, so n is equal to 3. So that means that the number of rows is equal to 2 raised to the third power, which is equal to 2 times 2 times 2 equals 4 times 2 equals 8. All right. So we know from this formula that this truth table needs 8 rows. So let's go ahead and list the numbers 1 through 8 here so that we have 8 rows. And then usually the best way to learn the pattern here is actually to start, is to work from right to left. So I'm going to skip this second column all the way down so that we're lined up with the last variable, the third variable here, variable C. And then for the last variable, we just alternate true, false, all the way down for as many rows as the formula tells us that we need. And then we go over to the left by one column and we do 2 trues, then 2 falses, then 2 trues, 2 falses, all the way down until we fill up the number of required rows. So it goes 1 true, 1 false, it goes 2 trues, true falses, and then for the next column to the left, we're going to do 4 trues and 4 falses, and then we get the conventional pattern for our truth values. And with 3 variables, this configuration of truth values covers all possible interpretations involving 3 variables. And so this truth table is giving us a comprehensive listing of all interpretations for this proposition that we are analyzing. Okay, we're going to work from left to right, but we're going to fill each column vertically as we work left to right. And of course, the ability to work in columns here is dependent on us using a monospace font. So again, make sure you're using a monospace font. Okay, open parenthesis gets an underscore. So we're going to put underscores all the way down in that first column within the body here. And then A can be evaluated from the interpretations. So we have 4 trues and 4 falses. I'm just copying over these values. And material consequence cannot be evaluated until we know what's on the right here. So we're going to skip this. And so I'm going to put blanks all the way down in this column. And then the open parenthesis gets an underscore. We're going to put underscores all the way down the column. And then B, we copy over the values from the interpretations. And we get true, true, false, false, all the way down. Conjunction cannot be evaluated yet until we know it's on the right. So we're going to leave blanks there. Now C is from the interpretations, alternating true and false. Now, looking within these inner parentheses, we can evaluate the conjunction with B on the left and C on the right. So for the first interpretation, we have true, 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 go over to conjunction. That is true, true, false, true, false. Conjunction says false, false, true. That's false. And false, false. False, false is false. True, true. Go to our lookup table. It's true. And notice that the answers are in the lookup table, just as before. So true, false. True, false is false. False, true. False, true is false. And false, false. False, false is false. Okay. Now we can do material consequence because we have the right-hand input now, which is everything in these inner parentheses. And on the left, we have A, okay. And on the right, we're going to look at the column under conjunction because on the right of material consequence, in these inner parentheses, the last thing that we evaluated was conjunction. So that's the dominant operation within these parentheses. So that's what we're looking down this column for our right-hand values. So on the first interpretation, we're going to get true, true. So true, true, and we're looking to material consequence. So that's true. And we're still using a lowercase letter here because we're not to the dominant operation of our overall complex proposition. For the second interpretation, we have true, false. True, false. For material consequence is false. True, false. Look it up in the lookup table. Is false. True, false. True, false is false. False, true. False, true is true. False, false. False, false is true. false, false. False, false is true. And false, false. False, false is true. Okay. Now we continue working left to right. We have a closing parenthesis. So we're going to put an underscore all the way down the column. Underneath that, another closing parenthesis. So again, underscores all the way down. And notice how, we are adding a second character here with the Consolis font. These underscores are elided together, so it looks like it's all one big underscore. If you use a font like Roboto Mono, we'll split those up so you can actually see that there's two characters there. But even with Consolis, there are two characters there, right? There's 1, 2. And even though it looks like one large underscore, if you think about the logic of a monospace font, that every character has the same width on the screen, we can see that there are two characters here because the width is twice as wide as the width of the T or the width of just one underscore. So, and notice how we're lined up underneath these characters in columns here. So there are two characters here. All right, so the material equivalence, we can't do that. We need to evaluate everything to the right of material equivalence. So we're going to skip that and put spaces all the way down the column so that now we're lined up with the next character, which gets underscores all the way down. And then A gets 4 trues and 4 falses. Conjunction, we can't do that until we evaluate what's on the right. And that's everything in these inner parentheses. Okay, then we get underscores all the way down. Negation, we can't evaluate that until we know what the value of B is. So we're going to put spaces here. And now we can evaluate B using the values from the interpretations. Okay, and now we can do the negation. So we're going to do the negation right here. We know that the negation is acting on the B. I've talked about the convention of dropping parentheses here in an earlier demonstration. And so whatever B is, the negation is going to flip it to the opposite value. And so using our lookup table, we go like this. We go, okay, B is on the right of the negation, true on the right. So we look to the right-hand character, we look for true. The negation is going to be false. So we're going to make it false. True on the right, true on the right. Negation is false. False on the right. The negation is true. Okay. False on the right. False on the right. Negation is true. True on the right. Negation is false. True on the right. Negation is false. False on the right. Negation is true. False on the right. Negation is true. All right, now we can continue working left to right, but we can't do disjunction until we evaluate what is to the right of it. So we're going to put spaces all the way down underneath disjunction. Negation, we can't evaluate until we evaluate C. So we're now lined up with C, and we do those alternating truth values from the interpretations. And now negation, let's see, true on the right. True on the right, negation is false. False on the right. Negation is true. True on the right. Negation is false. False on the right. Negation is true. True on the right. The negation is false. False on the right. Negation is true. True on the right. Negation is false. False on the right. Negation is true. And just keep using that lookup table as much as needed. Just look up the answers in the lookup table. The only thing that's different from our interpretations here is that we're just doing all possible interpretations, working vertically down these columns. Okay, now we can do the disjunction because we have what is on the left and we have what is on the right. Those are evaluated. And on the left, the last thing that we came to was the negation. So we're going to use the values that are in the column underneath negation. And on the right, the last thing that we came to was the negation. So we're going to use those values underneath negation on the right for the right-hand input of the operation of disjunction. So we have false, false for the first interpretation. And we go false, false, doing disjunction. False, false is false. False, true is true. True, false is true. True, true is true. False, false is false. False, true is true. True, false. True, false is true. And true, true is true. All right, so now we have everything evaluated that's on the right of the conjunction, and we have what's on the left. So for the left, we're looking down this column under A, and on the right, now we're going to look at what we evaluated last over here within these inner parentheses, which is disjunction. So we're going to look for our right-hand inputs underneath disjunction, which is the last thing we came to within these inner parentheses. And since that is the last thing evaluated within these inner parentheses, disjunction within this component is the dominant operation. And that's why we're looking to it on the right-hand side here. So we're going to go in the first interpretation, true, false. So we're looking at true, false, and we're looking for conjunction. That's going to be false. And true, true is going to be true. And true, true is going to be true. True, true. It's still true. And false, false. False, false is false. False, true. False, true is false. False, true again is still false. And false, true one more time. False, true is false. All right. Now we have everything to the left of material equivalence. It is all evaluated, and everything to the right is evaluated. So now we can do this last operation, which is outside of all parentheses. This is the dominant operation of the entire proposition. And on the left, the last thing we evaluated was material consequence. So material consequence is our dominant operation on the left. So we're going to look for the values underneath material consequence for our left-hand inputs. And the last thing we came to on the right was conjunction. And so we're going to look in the column underneath conjunction, this dominant operation over here on the right-hand side, for our right-hand inputs of material equivalence. All right. So in the first interpretation, we have true, false. And we're going all the way over to material equivalence. And that is false. And we're going to use a capital letter here because material equivalence is the dominant operation for the entire proposition. So capital letter there, okay. And then second interpretation, we get false, true. So false, true. And that is false. Next interpretation, false, true. False, true is false. Next interpretation, false, true. False, true. Again, false. True, false. True, false is false. True, false. True, false is false. True, false. True, false is still false. And true, false, yet again. True, false. Lookup table says it's false. So that is what the main content of a truth table with three variables looks like.